Good evening. This is an edition of 60 something when we consider a topic that might be relevant to the over 60s. My name is Dr. Essa Zanambasi, and I've entitled it Time to Consider the Health of Your Heart, and actually to love yourself enough to care about the health of your heart. So the question is, how healthy is your heart? Because matters of the heart, in other words, anything pertaining to the health of the heart, are at the heart of the matter. Your entire health depends on how healthy your heart is. And the heart is a very, very hard-working organ, so we really have to be fair to it. The functions of the heart and blood vessels, the cardiovascular system, it's to transport oxygen and to remove carbon dioxide, to transport nutrients and to remove waste, to fight disease, to transport hormones and enzymes, obviously. And it also is crucial for the regulation of body temperature. So it works very hard. These disorders of the heart and blood vessels, collectively known as the cardiovascular system, so its disorders are the leading health problem worldwide. That's why it is such a topical subject. Millions of people are afflicted to varying degrees, and many do not know that they have cardiovascular disorders or diseases, largely because of the way the body compensates. There may be no symptoms until things really get advanced. So I just want to go very quickly on this slide to differentiate between coronary artery disease and heart failure. Coronary artery disease, the arteries that carry oxygen and nutrients to heart muscle can become narrow or even blocked. And this causes damage to portions of the heart muscle, which we know in layman's terms as a heart attack. Those vessels can actually also go into spasm, very much like you feel a spasm of your muscles in the leg, okay? A cramp. So spasms of these vessels can also result in a heart attack. And then a stroke, which is then affecting the blood vessels that supply the brain, can happen as a manifestation of cardiovascular disease. And it's actually quite debilitating and devastating as well. And then heart failure, I just wanted to differentiate the two. Heart failure, on the other hand, is inadequate blood flow from the heart. And the heart is that pumping mechanism, which when it fails to supply blood to meet the body's needs, the body will begin to manifest symptoms such as fatigue, shortness of breath, and swelling of the extremities that we know as edema. And there are other more subtle symptoms and signs that generally become ignored or just written off or, ignored as, well, I'm aging, Somebody can decide they're aging, and so it's not important. But one has to be so aware. So now the question is this: are you tired of being tired? Yes, it is actually a major issue, because as people grow older, they think it is normal. I just want to say it actually isn't normal. It shouldn't be normalized to that extent. We have so much to live for. We have families to look after, and we shouldn't just say, oh, well, that's it. Now, I just want to touch on hypertension. I spoke about it in my other session on Tuesday evening. Hypertension is known as the silent killer. It is usually the first measurable clue of cardiovascular disease. And again, because of the lack of symptoms, people often discover it either incidentally or at a routine test or accidentally. Just, yeah, they discover that their blood pressure is a bit raised. Results from hypertension usually results from a decrease in the elasticity of vessels. Now, that is actually an important point because, again, we assume that as people grow older, these things happen. They shouldn't. They really shouldn't. And then there's also decreased internal diameter due to arteriosclerosis, which is really deposits of plaque inside the blood vessels. So that results in a rise in blood pressure. And now the common and the popular and the way that is managed is by trying to bring down the blood pressure. But my argument for years has always been that when something like plaque deposition, as shown in the picture, is happening, there should be a reason that should be corrected rather than medicating away the symptom of blood pressure. One should look at how to mitigate reasons for collection of plaque or loss of elasticity, and that's what we want to discuss. Associated with blood pressure are stress, nutritional deficiencies, very, very important, both of them, those two, defects in sodium metabolism, which actually might indicate hormonal and enzyme deficiencies. And there you go, enzyme imbalances and hormone imbalances. So we end up with this situation where chronic blood pressure, also known as hypertension, can lead to stroke, can lead to eye damage. It leads to blood vessel damage, as we've described arteriosclerosis. It can cause heart attack or heart failure. It can even lead to kidney failure. And as the kidneys fail, the blood pressure actually becomes even harder to control. So it becomes a vicious cycle. Just a quick one. Types of heart disease are many. I won't go into all of them, but you see the heart is quite a complex organ, a very, very hard-working organ. And so a lot of things can go wrong. And I'll point out, for example, pericarditis. The heart is in a bag or a sac called the pericardium. Now, when that gets infected from whatever organism, such as tuberculosis, that is a common one, or a virus, then the pericardium is inflamed and infected, and it creates that condition called pericarditis, which can lead to all sorts of heart diseases. That's an example. Another one that can happen is something that goes wrong with the way the timing of the heartbeat, and therefore arrhythmias or irregular heartbeats occur. That, by the way, happens when there is a huge deficiency of the right types of fat in the body, and those fats are replaced by the wrong types of fats that cause inflammation. And then you can see other things, dilatation, flabbiness, fatty deposits, the valves can go wrong, the vessels can balloon, causing an aneurysm. So we're dealing with quite a lot of things, which, yes, as we grow older, they can happen. However, I still say that if we look at our health through the lens of prevention and not always quick to try and fix a situation after it has happened, I think we'll be so much healthier. And that's why it's important to really say prevention is always better. And cardiovascular disease is not an inevitable result of aging. They are controllable factors of lifestyle, such as smoking, stress, leading a sedentary lifestyle. In other words, sitting, then just walking a little distance into the car and sitting some more, and then walking out of the car into the office or wherever you're going, and then sitting some more and spending the entire day sitting, and then you come home to sleep. That is what we mean by a sedentary lifestyle. That is one of the things that is leading to quite a lot of heart conditions, cardiovascular disease. And then, of course, dietary habits. Those are controllable if one knows how. I've already hinted on inflammatory oils and the right oils, which we are going to look at. And then elevated unhealthy cholesterol. There you go again, fats and the healthy or unhealthy fats. Obesity, which could be as a result of sedentary lifestyle and a poor diet. And of course, diabetes, which just comes almost to crown everything off. So we must be asking ourselves now, what do we mean by prevention? What is real prevention? And another question is this: can food be the answer to reversing most common forms of degeneration? Heart disease or cardiovascular disease with the aging process can be considered and is often considered a degenerative disease. So, can food be the answer to reversing it? I think, yes, we shall look at that, but more importantly, I like to consider preventing rather than waiting for it to happen and then scrambling to reverse. But it can go a long way. And then what else does the body need for optimal function? And when should we begin? All these are pertinent questions, but I just want to show this picture that is one of my pictures that I like to show. You know, the world out there is full of people, but all they seem to know is that, let me wait until I am sick enough and then I will go to get a medication or have a surgery. Nobody is prepared to listen actively to the option of lifestyle change. Now, I just need to say that in my capacity as a medical doctor, I have seen over 35 years, it's actually coming to 40 years since I became a doctor, that we need to be emphasizing the value and the importance of lifestyle change. We can't actually do business the same way anymore. We seem to need to emphasize the importance of lifestyle change. So I belong to a family whose vision is to end the trend of poor health and financial stress. That is our vision. We are on a mission to make the world healthier and happier. And we know for a fact that cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of disability and death worldwide. That's why I thought I would consider it for this session of 60-something. The cost of treating cardiovascular disease is astronomical. It is totally out of this world. And it is one thing that is actually causing families to become impoverished when people either have a stroke or have a heart attack or need to go for very, very expensive treatments. So we urgently need a paradigm shift, I believe, and nutritional approaches must be part of the overall lifestyle overhaul. So one of the things I'm passionate about is the role of nutrition in disease prevention. I've always been that way. So here's a picture that shows on one side modern diet, and on the other side, the more traditional plant-based whole food diet. And preferably, if it is homegrown, that is even better. Because it is a fact that you are what you eat. And the reality is that 75% of all chronic diseases can be prevented. That is a huge percentage. Now, I just want us to connect some dots. I love to connect dots. That is what I call the new career that I'm involved in. And I just want to start by saying this, quoting Carl Jung, a psychotherapist of old, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. I thought that was just so profound. Until you make the unconscious the usual way that people just live through life, until you bring awareness to how the general paradigm is. Many people will just say, oh, well, that's because of old age. Oh, that's how it is. Oh, that is fate. But I just want to point out a verse in the Bible. I'd love to read the Bible. And Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19, I would like all of you to read it in your own time. But the gist of it is that choose life. In other words, we have the power to choose life, because that is exactly the choices that we have ahead of us and in front of us. And we can choose how we want our life to turn out. So I want to give an example of some dots to connect. All lifestyle habits stimulate the glands, called the adrenal glands, out of which are a lot of hormones that keep us alive. Stress hormones, such as adrenaline and cortisol, and a lot of other hormones, okay? Overstimulated glands ultimately become exhausted. Then connect this dot as well, that it is a fact that vitamin C is concentrated in the adrenal glands. Therefore, inadequate intake of that particular vitamin, which happens to be water soluble and therefore cannot be stored or made by the human body, would result in adrenal weakness. And when that happens, other systems become affected, such as the immune system. Now, other nutrients that are required for good function of the adrenal glands include vitamin B complex, which is also water soluble, so we can't store it, amino acids, and trace minerals. Now, what does that tell you about our responsibility for our nutrition? It means that we have to be so intentional. We have to make the unconscious conscious. And then here are some more points to think about. Insufficient adrenal hormones or insufficient adrenal hormone production can happen in all age groups. And sometimes it can be so severe that it can be life-threatening. And it could be the reason that people are always complaining about how tired they are. The key here is to realize that symptoms develop slowly. So one has to be conscious, okay? It's sort of making the unconscious conscious. We have to create awareness. And if they are stressors of whatever description, be it illness, injury, emotional or psychological stress, that could reveal adrenal insufficiency. So most people are operating in a state of adrenal insufficiency, and when a stressor comes along, it unveils it and it can become a crisis. So I've mentioned adrenals and hormones and the fact that they're all interrelated. Nutrition, and that's what we are heading to speak about now. Nutrition is a critical determinant of the immune system and the immune responses, and malnutrition is the most common cause of immunodeficiency worldwide. When the when HIV broke out in the early 80s and became recognized as a disease entity, you know, we were almost led to believe that it was the only cause of immunodeficiency, but really the most common cause of immunodeficiency right around the world is malnutrition, poor nutrition. And now I just say so because I spent many of my medical clinical practice in HIV medicine. Okay, so let us introduce the very basics and start with the foundations of what we are made of. We are made of trillions of cells, over 70 trillion cells. And a human cell looks something like that. And within that cell are these organelles called mitochondria, which create the energy, create the work, and do the actual function of that cell. So that is the level at which we should be considering this whole issue of heart and cardiovascular diseases. Because as you would know, the heart pumps all through life. It is a very energy intensive organ. And so it's best to consider all of us, our whole body and our function from that cellular level and see how we can support it. So when somebody is saying, I am tired of being tired, what is going on, one should ask? Is it the mitochondria that are beginning to fail? Yes. Is it because there is not enough production by these ribosomes of the correct enzymes and the right protein? All of the above. Is it because the DNA may be poisoned and so the cell cannot reproduce accurately? There you go. That's another reason. And so that's why the family that we are involved in is so on the ball as far as saying we can prevent disease by promoting health. And there are three main areas: weight management, making sure that there's some physical activity, also known as exercise, and a diet rich in whole food nutrients, found specifically in whole grains. Now, that is a tall order because to get whole grains these days with food processing is really, really difficult. Fruits and vegetables, again, difficult to get the right amounts that are going to create that disease-preventing effect and health-promoting effect. And fish. I don't know when you last looked for some fish to buy and eat, but you need a good helping of specific oily fish that are found in certain parts of the world to get the right quota, the right amount to give you those attributes that you're looking for: disease prevention and health promotion. So what do we need to do? We need to consider supplementation, but here goes. We are told by the family that we belong to, called the Neolife family, that to be well, we need to do a lot of physical activity regardless of age. So even if you're over 60, you need to keep up with your exercise. You need to eat whole grains, and I've just mentioned that they're hard to come by. You need to ensure that fruits, vegetables, proteins, fats, and sugars are the correct amount, and they are the type that will help your body. Typically, however, I mentioned the sedentary lifestyle earlier on. Physical activity seems to have become a thing of, there just isn't enough time for adequate physical activity. Unlike the old days when people had to walk or had to go hunting or had to go gathering or had to go farming, plowing. Okay, so that's what has changed. Instead, we buy food, which is processed and prepared in such a way that it can have a long shelf life. And so we're getting a lot of inflammatory fats and sugars and processed and preserved protein, and hardly any fruits and vegetables that are fresh enough to provide those vitamins that are required, such as vitamins C and some B vitamins as well. So what is happening is that the energy levels are dwindling rapidly. We can still aspire to live a relatively long life, but the quality of that life is reduced by the fact that we need to be maintained in some shape or form for several years on either chronic medications, or we just have to adjust our lifestyle so that perhaps if you were previously more energetic, you become less energetic. You find yourself sitting down more or using a walking stick or just lying down. And that is not ideal. I think we need to get back to that time of looking forward to being active all our lives. And that's where this family comes in. It has pointed out that at a cellular level, you need whole grain oils. Why? Because it is the same biochemistry as our cells. And that is why our Creator put those grain oils in grain. However, over the years, over millennia, they have been processed out. So our cells are no longer healthy and allowing nutrients in and waste out. Instead, they become very unhealthy and very dysfunctional. And the answer to that is to feed the cells at that level. The advantage will immediately be enhanced energy and improved nutrient utilization efficiency by a large percentage. Now, a lot of people say, but I am already using something. I can continue with whatever it is I'm using, buying over the counter. To that, I often say, can you trust those supplements? Do you know who makes them? Are they made out of real food and real whole food? Are they non-GMO? Are they even grown in such a way that they are tested to ensure that there are no toxins in there? Or are they synthetic and made in such a way that the body cannot utilize them, because the body does not recognize synthetic things? And that's why a lot of people are battling with a lot of toxicity because of all the medications that are used to treat symptoms. So yes, it does really matter. That is my 2 cents worth on that one. And one should ask oneself, what is bioavailability? Because we have that as something that we are very, very proud of. All the supplements are very, very highly bioavailable because the body recognizes them. So bioavailability is a term used in physiology to describe the proportion of either a food or a medication which enters circulation when introduced into the body and has an active effect as desired. The degree to which a nutrient is available to the body for use, that's more pertinent to what we are talking about as regards nutrition. It's a measure of the rate that a supplement is absorbed within the body after it has been administered. And that's what we mean by ours are very, very highly bioavailable. They have a high bioavailability because they are made out of real whole food. And that's the difference that one needs to know. That is thanks to our scientific advisory board, who elucidated the value and the importance of feeding us at a cellular level, so that even the things that actually make the cell tick, the nucleus, the mitochondria, can get the food, get the nutrients. But first, one has to traverse the cell membrane. And that is the total Neolife difference, thanks to the founder and his board. The founder was a top toxicologist, pharmacologist, and cancer researcher who arrived at Neolife a few years after Neolife had been going. Neolife was established in 1958. He arrived in the 70s, established this board, and ever since then, we are privileged to have leading edge nutrition products that can empower your cells. And as I've just added there, that is all the cells are asking for, to be empowered to create the energy required. Then we have core nutrition. And in that core nutrition, we have all the 22 amino acids that nature provides us. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. And we are largely made out of protein. We are made out of a lot of things, but protein is important. And if you get the right quality, your body will do very well. And that is the other pack that was in the picture. It has those whole grain oils. It has some fish oil, omega-3. Ours is unique in that it is complete. It has all the 8 molecules as are required in nature. Then we have the fruits and vegetables, carotenoid complex. An independent study was done, and it showed that carotenoid complex enhances the body's immune system by a whopping 37% within 20 days. So ideally, if you start it and you make sure that you are consistent, your immune system keeps going up and up and up until such a time that you'll start asking yourself, hey, I haven't had a flu for a long time. I think I'm at that level where I feel that there is a flu doing the rounds around me. I get a few twinges here and there, but I am not floored. And that is an ideal situation to be in if your body can ward off infections like the flu. And then heart health is what we are talking about. The Heart Association recommends that we have to have 2 servings of omega-3 rich fish each week. Unfortunately, in South Africa, where I live, fish consumption in all populations is very low, basically because of the expense, as well as the concerns about contaminants. If you can imagine, fish come from the sea, and because of all the ships and the effluent from whatever is happening on land, there is a lot of heavy metals that are absorbed by the fish. So Neolife makes sure that they get the fish from the wild in the areas where there's minimal pollution. But even after that, they will test for over 200 classes of toxins to make sure that our omega-3 has as little in fact, it has no toxins whatsoever. Why? Because it is important to have omega-3. It is associated with a big reduction in cardiovascular diseases. It's an important nutrient. And that's what it looks like. All the 8 are there. It is complete. So I find it the most cost-effective way of filling that fish gap in our diets. Then let us look at targeted solutions. First, it's important to start with the core nutrition that I've shown you, and in there is the grain oils and the fish oil, and then you add the targeted solution. So that's what I want to talk about. We need to keep the blood flowing. Very, very important. A lot of people, when there's inflammation from whatever cause, it might be a viral infection, it might be the liver not working well, it might be because of too many toxins, they might be on a lot of chronic meds and medications, and therefore their body's ability to detoxify causes the blood to thicken because it is incapable of detoxifying. So the blood becomes thick and there's a tendency to form clots. And if you remember what we said at the beginning, strokes, heart attacks, closure of blood vessels, all that can happen. So we have a variety of things. You can just look at the picture, but in there's omega-3. We have something called lipotropic adjunct, which is a combination, a formulation with vitamin Bs that help to bring down the bad type of cholesterol. Vitamin E helps with improving blood flow, improving oxygenation. Garlic, similarly, helps with improved blood flow. Then we need to remember that we need to be able to rest and relax optimally so that our body works well. We have a mineral called calcium and magnesium, CalMag, very, very important. And then if you recall, I said one of the things that can lead to a heart attack is actual cramping of the muscle within blood vessels. You don't want that to happen. So CalMag is important to have in the system regularly. Then just the maintenance of blood vessels. I mentioned vitamin C is important. It can be deficient because our bodies neither make nor store vitamin C. And unless you are able to eat lots and lots and lots of oranges, I think it actually works out far more economical to supplement. Our vitamin C is sustained release. In other words, it doesn't get released all in one go, like most other vitamins that are on the market. This is released slowly over 6 to 8 hours. So, and you get a good amount of it. If it is paired with this other product called flavonoid complex, which is so important for the health of blood vessels, you'll find that the efficiency of vitamin C is improved by a whopping 400%. So for us 60-something, that is important to know. And one thing you will notice is that wrinkles will start to recede. Vitamin C is so important for building collagen in the blood vessels, as well as in the skin, as well as in the muscles, because collagen is a very, very important protein that is required everywhere. And once the collagen disappears, blood vessels degenerate, and that can cause cardiovascular disease. Then we have something that can power up the heart. It's called coenzyme Q10, as you can see here. Important for heart health and for energy. And I've said it a few times, the heart is the most energy intensive organ in the body. So it would be good to supply coenzyme Q10, which actually is, it goes directly to feed the mitochondria. those little powerhouses that produce energy in us. So I've shown you a lot. I've really shown you a lot. And I just want to start winding down by talking about detoxification. We need to remove toxins from time to time so that the blood flow will flow properly. And once we detox, that collection of plaque that can clog up the blood vessels is dealt with and is escorted out. So that is, those are some products that we have for that. And you must be asking yourselves, when should we begin to do all this? We do have supplements for children. You all will remember that it is very difficult to encourage the children or to force the children even to eat more fruits and vegetables, because all they want is the quick, sweet, snacky things. So we have Vita Squares, which also have Treonin. We have VitaGuard, which have carotenoids and flavonoids. Very, very important. Let's talk a little bit about more detoxification, and that is the environment. You know, stress is caused by constant exposure to chemicals. Did you know that? So you can choose to reduce and eventually eliminate this particular cause of stress by changing your detergents. I just want to repeat that. This is actually the reason I was looking to do something different. I was just so sick and tired of buying things that I knew had too many chemicals and bringing them into my house, having spent a lot of money month in, month out. So when I discovered these ones, which are excellent, very economical, very effective, they're environment friendly, 100% biodegradable, and they will save you a lot of energy. I was sold immediately, and now one packet of 2 kilos in my house lasts anywhere between 4 and 6 months. It does all my laundry, and it also does the dishes in the dishwasher. If you have a dishwasher, it's an excellent one, because then it doesn't kill your gut bacteria. That is a topic for another day, but yeah, I found it invaluable. And then obviously the general purpose cleaners, you don't have so many because they're so versatile. For example, this red one washes fruits and vegetables. You can bath with it. You can wash your face. It's a very good face wash. You can wash the dishes. You can shave if you're a man. You can do so many things. This one also very versatile. Super 10 will clean anything that water cleans, and it will do so very efficiently. And then Care is a very, very good disinfectant. And then the skin, yes. You know, we are seeing a lot of people as they grow older, they have been on chronic medications for blood pressure and arthritis and diabetes and all those things. And then they are given the bombshell that now they need to go on to dialysis. I think that is so, so sad. But when that happens, nobody ever remembers that perhaps it was those skin things that were used that contained mercury and other heavy metals like lead that could have damaged the kidneys. So we have a skincare range that has been formulated to be 100% organic. That is called Nutrients Organic, and it works very, very well. Very, very economical. And it actually has been shown to reverse the signs of aging of the skin. So, in summary, stress can manifest in so many ways. And unfortunately, the way we were trained was to wait for symptoms and try to manage those symptoms. I hope this presentation has shown that if we learn to connect the dots, we'll actually get down to the bottom line, which is how healthy are the cells throughout the body, but particularly in the cardiovascular system that we are discussing today. So stress can be one of the causes of symptoms that will lead to what appears to be a cardiovascular disease, such as blood pressure either high or low, and fainting, and muscle aches and cramps, which we can think is because of poor blood supply, depression, all those things. But the bottom line is, if we can take care of the bottom line, I think we'll be doing very well. And one thing that would definitely happen as we become more nourished is that we'll get the desire to start exercising. That is something that is important for the whole body and for the cardiovascular system. So men and women, we should do exercise regularly. Right, so as we close off, there is a difference between being interested and being committed. So there's a difference between interest and commitment. When you are interested in something, you do it only when it is convenient. But when you are committed to something, you will accept no excuses and only accept results. And that's what we offer. So I want to urge you to look out and listen out and then share what you have heard today about how to prevent and even reverse, actually, cardiovascular diseases, and also to unlock the benefit of that sharing. Because if you can yourself use the product and then tell other people about it, there are so many benefits that we shall discuss some other time, but they're exciting for sure. So I'm going to stop the share and get out of here. I know we were quite a small group because Saturday evening is not very a good time, but I had committed myself to finish up my series. So I'll stop recording.